proud to work in partnership with such wonderfully talented men and women like you. I know that you have other things to do, yet you choose to come today to this event because you are inspired to contribute to a greater cause and to bring solutions to the most difficult issues that are preventing every member of our community from actualizing their own versions of the American dream. I am so humbled to be here with you because we all know that addressing the needs of the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander communities is certainly a daunting challenge, especially when so many subgroups within our community are living in crisis. Yet, their challenges are so very invisible to the people with the power to change those crises. I am so very proud of what this gathering represents. We are here because we know how important it is for us to be visible and effect change. We know how critical it is for us to stand united, not as our own separate racial or ethnic groups, but as one community of Americans born of Asian, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander descent. While the media headlines, and to a certain extent, the mainstream political parties and candidates do not consider us nationally significant in this upcoming national election, we know, you know here in Washington State, that regionally, on a state, district, and local basis, we have the strength of numbers to be the crucial margin of victory. Yeah. Yes, the margin of victory. This gathering is about how to continue to build our momentum as one community, bring visibility to our causes, engage our people to exercise our power so that we can exert the necessary force to influence powerful peoples and institutions to include us in the decisions that they make that affects the lives of the people in this country. So let's start by reviewing some very compelling facts about our community. Fact number one, the AA and NHPI community consists of more than 45 distinct ethnic groups who speak over 100, and we've just seen it demonstrated right here on this stage. We speak over 100 different languages and dialects, and we each have our own specific issues that may not be shared with any other groups. Fact number two, it is true that there are groups in our community who have worked hard, have become successful, and are contributing tremendously to the social, political, cultural, artistic, and technological landscape in this country, and we are very proud of them. But there are so many segments of our community who continue to struggle to complete high school and who endure severe poverty. Many groups in our community, from the South Asians to the Southeast Asians, our Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander communities, face poverty rates that are not that different from that faced by our brothers and sisters in the Native, African American, and Latino, Hispano, and Mexicano communities. While some members of our communities are indeed thriving, those who struggle face marginally more serious challenges, and these challenges remain untouched by political and policy solutions. Fact number 3. According to the 2010 census, however, our population is growing quickly and had the highest percent increase among all racial categories in this country. The highest. Yes, we should clap. Yes. Do you know that during the last 10 years, our population increased by almost 5.5 million people? This is a 46% growth since 2000. And overall, if you looked at the overall population in this country, the overall population only increased by 10%. We grew by 46%. And today we're at 5.6% of the United States population. That is significant. Fact number 4. We are no longer limited in our presence to just the gateway states and cities like the East and West Coast. We now are a major presence in cities in politically significant states like Nevada, Texas, Florida, and Virginia. And we also have concentrated populations in the Midwest metropolitan areas like those in Ohio, Illinois, Colorado, and Minnesota. These facts tell a very compelling story about who we are as a force to be respected and recognized. Our numbers demand that we be part of the conversation. Being an Asian American elected official taught me how much being at the table mattered. If we are not at the table, who will question the unintended consequences of public policies? If we are not at the table, who will question the costs and benefits to our communities of political decisions? If we are not at the table, who will highlight the underrepresented and stand up for the disempowered and speak up against the injustices on behalf of those who are voiceless? It matters when you are at the table. But it takes a depth and breadth of diverse experiences to craft solutions that do not leave behind an entire category of peoples disadvantaged nor render them invisible. This is why it matters that we understand our role as political Asians. Notice I didn't say political Asian Pacific American. I said political Asian identity. And what do I mean by that? In the town where I grew up, there were a number of second-generation Asian Pacific American kids who looked a lot like us. But they didn't really like us. Even as a child, I sensed that these children were a little bit uncomfortable with the fact that we were associated with them just because we looked alike. And maybe that is why they try so hard to be unwelcoming to us. As the popular Asian kids in the neighborhood, I thought that they had the opportunity and the obligation to influence the rest of the other children in the neighborhood to treat us with more understanding and kindness. Now, as a grown-up, and I think back, I probably had more in common with the poor white kids in my neighborhood than I did with those second-generation Asian kids. But I was desperately seeking solidarity, and my search resulted in a creation of an artificial political Asian identity that in my heart demanded a higher level of duty and loyalty to each other, despite our ethnic, cultural, and linguistic differences. Fair or not, we know that those of us who either live at the margin or are marginalized from resources and power, we often look for and find ourselves creating political identities as a first step to both self and community empowerment. And for me, as a Southeast Asian child growing up, while I wanted to always identify as a woman, an American of Hmong descent, my experiences have proven over and over again that I must consent to and be willing to construct and embrace the next largest common denominator in our identity in this country in order to survive. So what do I mean by that? 4 days after I got sworn into office, on a cold February morning, I arrived in my office at the state capitol